overthinkers, and welcome to Always the Overthinker podcast, the podcast where we will dive deep and probably too deep into the art of turning simple thoughts into complex mazes. I'm your host, and yes, I am currently overthinking whether I should have started with, hey there, or hello, or maybe I could have just said, greetings, fellow overthinkers. But you know what? That's exactly why we're here. That constant mental chatter, those endless what ifs, and the ability to turn a simple text into a doctoral thesis. These are our superpowers, even if sometimes they feel like it's our kryptonite. So you might be wondering, why did I decide to start this podcast? Well, picture this. It's 3 a.m. I'm lying in bed, and I'm replaying a conversation from 2015 where I said, you too, when a waiter told me to enjoy my meal. Classic, right? And in that moment of peak overthinking, it hit me. I can't be the only one who does this. There must be others out there who turn everyday moments into mental marathons. Well, this podcast is for all of us who've ever spent 45 minutes crafting a 2-sentence email, and for those who rehearse phone calls before making them, and then rehearse what we should have said afterwards. Yeah, this is a podcast for everyone who has dedicated a playlist for imaginary scenarios that will probably never happen. In each episode, we're going to explore different aspects of overthinking, from its surprising benefits, and yes, there are some, to its challenges, and most importantly, how to harness it rather than let it harness us. We're going to dive deep into topics like the science behind why some of us have minds that never seem to hit the pause button. We're going to share real life stories from fellow overthinkers, and trust me, you'll relate to these. We're going to share practical strategies for when overthinking seems to overwhelm us. And yes, we're even going to laugh at ourselves a little because sometimes that's just the best medicine. Now, what's going to make this podcast different from the rest? Well, I'm not here to tell you to just stop overthinking because let's just be honest. Has that advice worked for anyone? Instead, we're going to embrace our overthinking tendencies while learning to channel them more productively. You can expect new episodes every week, each running about 30 to 40 minutes. And you know I spent way too long debating if that was the perfect length. But each episode will feature a mix of personal stories, expert insights, and practical tips. Sometimes we may have guests who are fellow overthinkers sharing their experiences and strategies. Other times it's just going to be you and me diving deep into the topics that overthinkers love to, well, overthink. I want this to be more than just a podcast. I want it to be a community. I want you to share your overthinking stories with me on social media using the hashtag #AlwaysTheOverthinker. Tell me about the times your overthinking led to a brilliant idea, or the times it made you spend 3 hours choosing a Netflix show only to go to bed without watching anything. So before I let you go, and yes, I have rewritten this conclusion probably about 12 times, I want you to remember this. Our overthinking minds might sometimes feel like a burden, but they're also what makes us uniquely insightful, empathetic, and creative. We're not going to try and shut them up. We're going to try and learn to work with them. So join me for my next episode tomorrow when we'll talk about the science behind why we can't stop overthinking. We're going to break down exactly what happens in our minds when we start spiraling into overthinking situations. Until then, fellow overthinkers, keep thinking. Just maybe set a timer for it. This has been Always the Overthinker. Find me on all major podcast platforms. And remember, sometimes the best thoughts come after the 7th or 8th time you think them. Thank you for listening. And don't forget to like or subscribe if you liked this episode. And remember, the more you ponder, the more you wonder. I'm Dee Dee, and this is Always the Overthinker. Thank you.